Thank you, Mr Chair, and I'm so pleased that Jo Goodhue is looking forward to my speech. Her expression of joy, it just makes me want to speak for 10 minutes instead of 5. I didn't realise how much the National Party wanted to hear from me. Well, I was in my office listening to the debate, Mr Chair, and I felt like I needed to come down for Minister Boscawen's first piece of legislation in the House, and like other members before me, I want to congratulate the Minister on his appointment, but I was a little bit disappointed because this is a Minister who, when he was on the backbench, was a lion on many issues, and here he is, his first piece of legislation. He's been released on the House. He can say what he wants. He has the power in his hands, and what does he do? Nothing. He's been muzzled. He's been curtailed. It's incredibly disappointing. This is a bill that deals with motor vehicle sales. Motor vehicles produce emissions. Yes, emissions cause climate change. Climate change has resulted in an ETS. Mr Boscawen feels very strongly about the ETS and emissions that come from motor vehicles. Here was an opportunity on the Motor Vehicle Sales Amendment Bill, Mr Chair, for the Minister to take a call, and finally he's in a position to do something about it, and he didn't, and that's a little bit disappointing. But the committee stage is not over yet, Mr Chair, so we do look forward to the Minister taking a call in that regard. This is another piece of legislation that started under the previous Labor government, as many other pieces of legislation have, and I wonder when we're going to stop passing Labor legislation, but if we're going to have a national government, I prefer it's one that passes Labor Party legislation, so I'm not going to complain about that too much. But it is a very important piece of legislation because consumer protection is one of the critical roles of this Parliament, and vehicle sales, of course, are one of the largest purchases that New Zealand families make. And I am case in point why we need consumer protection legislation, because everyone's been talking about their first cars. Mine was black and it didn't have a cup holder, and that's about all I can tell you about it. My current car is white and it does have a cup holder. Ergo, by the very complex, the very complex Moana Maki vehicle rating system, my current car is better than my previous car because it has a cup holder and my previous one didn't. So I'm one of these people, Mr Chair, who doesn't know what to look for. Mr Chair, do not need to regard me in such a disappointed fashion. I'm being honest. I know nothing about cars except that they're useful and I have to have one, and a cup holder is incredibly important to me personally. And there are many other people who are maybe too ashamed to admit that they don't know the bit of the car that Mr Robertson talked about that rusted through. Never heard of it. Never heard of it. Didn't even know it existed until... Didn't even know it existed until today. And I want to thank Mr Gary Bates from Gary Bates Motors LMVD in Gisborne, who was incredibly helpful to me when I had to purchase a car, and explaining to me that there were probably functions and attributes of a car beyond the cup holder that I should probably be asking about. When he said to me, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, my mother says it has to be white or silver because I drive a lot, so visibility is important, and it has to have a cup holder." And that's pretty much it. So he went through the process with me, and this is an example of why consumer protection law is very important, because this is a major purchase, and many people know nothing about vehicles and the questions that they should be asking and the problems that they should be looking out for. And this is why, you know, when you look at what happens in private sales, we all see people who come through our electorate offices who have been burnt by this because they don't know the questions to ask, and there's not that protection in place. And that's why it's so important for people to go through licensed dealers who can make sure that they're getting what they think they're getting, and that they're getting their value for money, Mr Chair. And I have to say, you know, this is one of these pieces of legislation that you feel that if it was a Labor government passing it, we'd be being told we were too nanny state, you know, with too many rules in place. People should be able to buy complete dogs of cars if they want to. That's their right as a free individual of this country. The free market will provide, the invisible hand of the market will make sure that that car goes properly. And that's not the reality. And the fact is, there are people out there who are going to take advantage of ignorance, and people are very busy. They don't often have time to go and look up all the things that they need to know. They don't have time to make sure that they're prepared when they're buying something as important as a car. And that's why it's important to have these protections in place. And it's also a very good, it's very pleasing to see the role of the tribunal beefed up, because tribunals are a much easier way of dealing things. If we can keep things out of the court as much as possible, that is absolutely desirable. And can I say happy birthday, Aaron Gilmore?